Hey, good morning, everyone. How's it going? So what am I working on now? I got a 2007 Hyundai Accent. Clean little car, I'll tell you that. It's got 113,500 miles on it. Customer's complaint is a check engine light is on. So, of course, they stopped at like an AutoZone or wherever, and they got it scanned, and the customer and the store said, hey, you need a transmission temperature sensor. Okay. So they brought it into us to diagnose it. So looking at it, I got the scanner hooked up to it, and I can tell you the code that it has. There's one code, transmission code. It's got a airbag code too, but we're not worried about that. I'll show you the code. P0713. Transmission fluid temperature sensor A circuit high input. Okay. Now, I'm sure, well, maybe you haven't, but you could have a high input or a low input. What does that actually mean? What does high input and low input actually mean? High input means usually the signal wire is shorted to voltage. Low input means the signal wire is shorted to ground. High is voltage, low is ground. That's usually what that means. I don't think I've ever seen it not mean that, but I always go with usually, just in case, because I'm sure there's going to be a situation out there where that's not exactly what it means, but it's usually what it means. So, 99 times out of 100, it's a bad sensor. Now, where is the sensor located on this? Is it external? Is it internal? I haven't the slightest idea. So I'm going to get it inside the shop, and I want to look at the wiring harness, make sure, like maybe where the battery's mounted, maybe it's mounted directly over a connector and it's dripping, or it was dripping, or whatever. Man, I can't think. It's too early in the morning. It's Monday. It could be dripping battery acid or something. Who knows? You know, anything's possible onto a connector. Maybe a mouse chewed through a wire somewhere. Anything's possible. So I just want to give it a quick visual, see what I find. And then from there, I'm going to look it up. I want to verify exactly where this sensor is. Because even just testing this, if I got to go inside the transmission, you're talking a lot more than just a regular diagnostics. But let's find out. Let's get into this thing and see what's going on. So I'm not even going to road test. Actually, no, I am going to road test it. I want to see what the transmission feels like. Now, transmission temperature high. Actually, you know what? Let me go into data. Let me see what it's reading for actual transmission temperature. So I already generated the report. That's what that is. Let's go into TCM. I tell you what, it feels like it's going to snow, and it's supposed to be miserable weather this entire week. So read data stream. Let's find out what is the actual. We have oil temperature sensor, but what does that actually mean? Is it an actual temperature reading? Oh, 86 degrees. Okay, so that might be correct. So we're going to keep that. There is no other temperature. Yeah, there's no other temperature, so that's it. There's only 22 of these are called PIDs. There's only 22 PIDs that you can look at. So that's really all I'm concerned with is that. So I'm going to keep that on here. Let me go to graph. So it's right around 86 degrees. Tells me that up there. So let me go and road test this. I want to make sure of what the transmission feels like. I have seen transmission failures on these. It's not super common. It's really not super common. These are pretty darn good transmissions in these things. But I have seen them fail. Nowhere near the number of some other vehicles, but I have seen them fail. Yeah, all right, so let's go for a road test. Okay, I pulled over on the side of the road. Transmission shift's fine, but I want to show you an anomaly that happened. All right, so here, you can see the transmission temperature right now is fluctuating right around 100. But here had an anomaly where all of a sudden, you see what the temperature is there? 60? There's no way that this thing shot down like that. Or even right there. There's just no way. That does not happen with transmissions. This reading where it's at right now, yeah, see there, it's dropping again. Now it's all over the board. That is not right. Usually erratic readings like that, usually that's a sensor fault. Usually. So, all right. Let's get back to the shop. Like I said, the transmission shifts perfect. Absolutely perfect. There's no concern there one bit. So, yeah, let's get back to the shop and take a look at this thing. Now, just got out on the road. Check this out. See that jump? Yeah, something's really whacked out there. All right, let's get back to the shop. Okay, so that 176, that's got to be a default number because it's not changed or varied from there. For the remainder of the road test, that's where it stayed. I'd be willing to bet if I let this thing cool down a little bit, this thing will vary all over the place and then shoot back up to 176. And the likelihood, just from my past experience with the way temperature sensors work, be it ambient, air coolant, temp, whatever, past experience will tell me that's more than likely a bad sensor. Could it be a short in a wiring harness? Absolutely, but the likelihood of it is far less than it just being a sensor. But I got to pull it inside and give it a look anyway. So up under the hood here, everything looks fine. I don't see anything dramatic. Like I was saying, you always look at the battery and connectors, and it doesn't look like you would see some kind of corrosion or cleanness or something on the top of the transmission. I don't see anything like that. So everything looks good there. So let me just look up and see where the actual sensor is. Like I said, it's probably inside the transmission. I just don't know. I'm going to look it up and see what I can't figure out from there. But we're going to put this thing up in the air. I want to give this thing a good look over for the customer, make sure everything's good, and go from there. All right, let's do that, and let's see if we find anything, and then I'm going to look up that temperature sensor. And finally, before I turn the car off, sitting in the shop, you can see the temperature still staying consistent at 176. I don't know why it's there, but 176, nothing's changed. You would think at idle this whole time, because it's been a good 5 minutes or so, something would have changed there. It hasn't. So what I'm going to do is I am going to shut this thing down while I check it out, and then we're going to restart it later on and see what the temperature actually reads. So I'd be willing to bet all of a sudden it changes dramatically. So I'm sitting at home here and I'm editing this video together, and I realize I didn't complete that portion of this video. And really, I didn't do anything. I didn't go any further. The customer wanted to put a new sensor in it because more than likely that was the failure. They already had it in their head that that's what the failure was going to be. So we pretty much let the car go. And as this video continues, it's actually 3 days later. So on to the rest of the video. All right, so it's actually 3 days later, and I got that Hyundai in the shop. We have the sensor, and this is what it looks like. This is the transmission temperature sensor. This snaps through the casing, and this basically gets like zip tied, or it's got a clip or something holding it to the wiring harness inside, and it's just basically just a temperature sensor. So, and it stays submerged in fluid. So it's going to be sitting somewhere down in here. There's a drain plug, so I got to drain the fluid out ahead of time. I don't think there's a gasket on this, although somebody may have put a gasket on it. Pretty sure it's supposed to be silicone. I'm going to take this front shield off just to give myself a little more room. So let me get that off, and then we're going to start to drain this. All right, so I got the shield off. There's a clean bucket there to catch the fluid. Why am I catching the fluid? Because the customer wants to save the old fluid. So that's what we're going to do. They want to try to reuse as much of the old fluid as possible. So that's fine by me. Told them I can't save it all. But I can save some of it. All right, so we're going to let that drain down, and then we're going to take the pan itself off. Let me see if I can let you down a little bit here. We do like that. The only thing I don't like about this lift is it doesn't go up high enough for me. It's definitely too low for my tastes. So, let's let that drain for a second. While that's draining,
to start to take some of these pan bolts out. And we get an extension on here. Light up here too so I can kind of see what I'm doing. Not sure if I can get to all the pan bolts from underneath. Actually, I think I can. What I meant was not to get to them from underneath, but get to all of them without using like a swivel or something. All right. Now that I got the majority of those off and I got most of the fluid drained out, just a light snug. I don't want to go too tight since I got most of the bolts off that hold this in place. And the reason I don't want to do that is because with the rest of them unbolted, I don't want to accidentally twist the flange. Okay, now, I left one bolt in place, and it's in loose. Just a little bit loose. And the reason being is I want to see if this pan will come down a little bit on its own, and I don't want it to completely fall off. That is the reason for leaving one bolt in slightly. See that? So now it stays like that. Let me actually move this oil drain out of the way. Or I should say the saved fluid out of the way. Ooh. Yeah, somebody did what I wouldn't do. And what is that? Let me show you. They siliconed a gasket to the pan. I would never do that. I believe that this thing's supposed to use silicone. So, there's the sensor right there. That's the sensor. See it? That's the sensor. All right, let me see what's involved. I want to drop this filter off so it's out of the way. Yeah, I'm going to have to pause you for a minute because I want to just figure this out real quick. So now, in all honesty, here, it looks as if I can unclip this thing. Let me see if I can put my light in a different position. It looks as if I can just unclip this sensor. It's spring steel, not spring steam. And I don't see anything with the wiring on either end of the sheath here. Everything looks fine. So now what I have to do is probably go through the fender well. I just cut the wheels. I don't know if you could actually see that or not, but I cut the wheels. Yeah, you weren't in view of that. All right, let me see about taking this side cover off over here. Let's see. Back you up a little bit. There's one screw up there, and then there's one screw right there. Of course, there's absolutely no good position for me to be in to see this. I've never done one of these before, so just bear with me. So now, it's that second connector there, the one closest to the backside of the transmission. Let's see. This one. All right, obviously there's no way I'm going to get in there to film this and show you at the same time. So let me disconnect that. And then the way it looked in that new sensor, it looks as if I have to disconnect it from the inside of the case and feed it up and through. Like I has to insert from the outside in. So let me get that undone first and we're gonna go from there. So there you go, the harness connectors are off. I took the other one off too just to make my life easier. So now we gotta go inside here because it's got two tabs that you have to release in order to get that thing to go up. If you look at the new one, see that? So this is going to insert from the top down. So there again, there is absolutely no way I'm filming this and having you guys watch. So let me get those tabs depressed and push that thing up a little bit and hopefully get it out. Also, I used compressed air, blew around it to blow any dirt away that might be there. And also that helps in connectors too, because sometimes you get connectors that are stuck and they don't want to release, and it does help big time. So, all right, yeah, let me get that depressed and pushed up. Okay, so I got up there with these to depress those tabs. I'm sorry if it's not focusing. Press those tabs, and I was able to push it up a little bit. Where are we? Right there. So now you can see it's sticking up. All I'm doing is pushing with my finger to get that up and out. And there we go. It's out. Okay, so now it's going to be reverse procedure to install. The only thing I'm going to do different is I'm going to put some transmission assembly gel on that O-ring. I'm going to wipe out the top, you know, with a rag, wipe out the top where that thing sits, just to make sure we don't have any dirt or debris that possibly could fall into that bore. That's all. So let me get this in place. All right, so there again, I'm not sure if you're going to even be able to watch what I'm doing here. Let's see. Sorry if the tripod's bobbling around. See if I can go in through the side here. I'm going to feed that through, and then I'm going to stick my hand in through the bottom to pull the sensor through. There we go. And then this thing will rotate in there. It doesn't have like a set keyway or anything to lock it in place, which is nice because then you can rotate it and get to the actual tab, which I was having a bit of a problem with. All right. So now Okay, the actual seal had fallen out of this connector, and I picked it up from the ground, from inside the oil drain. What am I talking about? This piece here, the weather seal. So that goes back in there. It'll insert fully once you push this down. And you heard it click. So now, back to this side. Apologize for bouncing you all over the place. Back up a hair. When I'm caught in there. Try to get the other end caught. Not cooperating. I know you're looking at my arm probably, but there it's going in place. And there it goes. It's actually got like a tab to lock in there. So that's in place. All right, so I got to clean the transmission pan gasket surface right there. I got to clean all that crud off of there. Saved as much fluid as possible, but this thing's supposed to use silicone, not a gasket. So let me clean all of this off, and then we're going to silicone this and put this in place. So now you can watch me put some silicone on there. Basically, I just use my bench grinder, the wire wheel on the bench grinder, to clean that thing up. So this is Ultra Gray Permatex. And there again, with silicone, you don't got to go bananas. And whenever you're using silicone, leave a little bit of it hanging out the tip like that. Because that makes it so it doesn't dry up in the inside the tube. So now with that all ready, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe off the pan rail on the transmission itself. With some brake clean. And really all it is just clean rag, brake clean. It's really all, it's nothing special. Just want to try to get it as clean as possible. What you want to try to avoid too is you don't really want to have fluid dripping along the rail as you're trying to put a siliconed piece in place, because that'll create a spot for it to wick through and potentially not seal. All right. So now, Let me move you a little bit so I can work. Try to get bolts caught in opposite parts of the pan, opposite locations on the pan. Opposite points on the pan, I should say. And it doesn't really matter if you have to move it around a little bit. It's not really going to hurt anything. Now, I'm not going to tighten these up just yet, but I am going to drag them down. This is just a light-duty screw gun. All right. So now I can actually move this drain bucket out of the way, so I don't have to deal with that being in my way. Let me do that. And now let me catch the rest of the bolts. And I'm going to move this because it's kind of in my way. That doesn't affect you too much, does it? No. Catch all the bolts before you start tightening anything, because you may have to jiggle the pan around a little bit. All right. I'm going to use my gun to tighten them up. I know some of you are not going to like that, but go opposites. Now this screw gun is set on like a medium strength, so I can tighten these more by hand if I wanted to. But they're good like that. I'm happy with that. Let me just verify that I got every one of them. Okay, and so now you're going to want to see the squish, the gasket squish, that is. See that? See how nice and neat that silicone came out? Perfect, absolutely perfect. I'm very happy with that. All right, so now what I got to do is I got to tighten that drain plug, because remember I didn't fully tighten it. Got to tighten the drain plug. I got to put that side shield on, and I got to put that under shield on. Let me do that, and then let's add fluid to this and
hopefully it's fixed.
Okay, lower shield's on. All of that's on. Drain plug is tight. So, all right, let's let this down. Let's add fluid to it. Okay, so let's put the fluid back into it. Now this thing was overfilled before. Not by an incredible amount, but it was overfilled. You may be asking, what's the point of the rag? The point of the rag is it's a nice clean rag. And I don't know if any debris fell into this fluid when I had it apart. So I just want to try to catch some of the debris, if there is any. I'd rather do that now than have this stuff go into the pan. It's still filtering. Still filtering, it basically blocked up the hole. I know I'm probably covering everything with the drain bucket there. So sorry if I did that and you didn't get to see it. But you got to hear me explain what I was doing. And so yeah, some debris did get in here. I don't know if you could see it in there. This was a clean pan, but there is debris up in there. Oh, sorry if I blocked you there, but so, let's start it up and check our fluid level. I think I probably blocked you when I was pouring that fluid in, but let's start it up. And we're gonna just put it in gear, forward and reverse, and back up in park so we can check the fluid level. Alright, I shifted into reverse and drive. Make sure it went in. It's not like I took the filter off, so it didn't really drain fluid out of the valve body or anything. And actually, it's still a little on the overfilled side. Yeah, it's actually got way too much fluid in it. I'm gonna have to remove some of that fluid. Believe it or not, the easiest way, I'm gonna put this up in the air, take the drain plug out, let some drain out while it's running. Hope we get that level to where it needs to be. Alright, so up in the air. And we're just gonna crack this through. Actually, let me move this shield. This is my life easier. How do you know how much to drain out? I don't. So the customer supplied me with fluid in case I needed fluid. And from what I saw, I would say it was probably a quart or more overfilled. Maybe not a quart, maybe 3/4 of a quart. All right, before we tighten that up, we're going to recheck the fluid level. All right. I just really need to get it down far enough so I can reach in there. That should be good. Ah, it's actually at the full cold mark. See that? It was right at the top. Oops, sorry, I wasn't on it. I was right at the top there. Let me show you again. I hate when I do that. I don't even realize I'm doing it. So see that? It's right to that point there, and that's a full cold mark. So that's where we're going to leave it. So let me tighten everything up underneath. And then we're going to road test this, and then we're going to recheck it one last time. A little more than snug. That'll be perfect. Let's let it down, clear some codes, see where we're at. So I just took it on the same road test I went on last time. I actually went a bit further this time. And tranny temperature's staying pretty steady. So let me shut that off. Yeah, remember how it jumped up to whatever it was, 190 something? So it's staying consistent. So everything's happy now. So I am good with this. I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to recheck the transmission fluid. I'm sure it's going to be perfect. I'm not concerned about it, but I'm going to recheck it anyway, just to be certain. You never know. If something's off, then I'll show you that, but I'm going to end the video here because otherwise it's just getting way too long. But yeah, so anyway, nice repair. It was not a bad job to do. Happy with the results. First one I've ever done. Really wasn't terrible. It really wasn't. And if I wasn't filming, I could have gotten it done way faster. But yeah, so anyway, that's it. All right.
hopefully you got something out of that video. If you did, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.